Welcome, this is Carrie Schell from On Point Quilter. In this tutorial, I'm going to be sharing with you the Thankful Words quilt. And this was inspired by a quilt designed by Kristy Goodin Soard, who is part of the Techno-Quilters group. All of the blocks in this quilt come from the EQ block library and were combined in a custom set layout. On the home screen, select New Project, and let's label this one Thankful Quilt, and select OK. View the project sketchbook, and on the Fabrics tab, let's delete all of these fabrics. So select the three dots and select Clear All Unused Fabrics, and select Yes, and close. Now let's include fabrics that we would like in our quilt. So let's select Search Fabric Swatches. In the EQ Fabric Library, I went to the section called Manufacturing Basics and selected Art Gallery Nature Elements. Then I did Select All Fabrics followed by Add to Sketchbook. If you want a different collection, use the same process to add that. Then you can close. On the home screen, I'm going to select Search for Block Patterns, and this is going to take me to the block library. In the EQ block library, go to Foundation Piece and select Alphabet Basic. Select all blocks followed by Add to Sketchbook. Then let's go to 06 Motifs and select Alphabet, and we're just going to pull the numbers in. So use the Shift key on your keyboard and select the first and the last number and select Add to Sketchbook and close. Now select the home screen and select Design a Quilt from Scratch. Select a new quilt and in the ribbon toolbar select the style Custom Set. We don't know the finished size, so at this point there's no need to do an adjustment. If you go to the Layout tab, you can see that the default is set to 48 by 48. Go to the Design tab, select Block Tools followed by Set Block. Then navigate to Layer 2. Drag your first letter on the quilt. Now when I pull in the first block and I use the Adjust tool, I can see the size is 6 by 6. And I would actually prefer a much smaller block. I would like one to be 2 by 2 inches. So I can change the size for all of the blocks by selecting Work Table Options and then select Setting Blocks, and under the drag and drop options, select Use the size entered below and change the size to 2 by 2 and select OK. Now with the Adjust tool, I'm going to go ahead and just change that first one to 2 by 2, and under Quilt Grid Setup, I want to have all three on, and I want to turn the grid snap increments to 1 inch. This will make placement of the blocks a snap. Move the first block to the upper left corner, and you can see the X and Y axes is 0, 0, width and height is 2. Now let's go back and do a set block and drag the rest of the letters for my first name. Now I can leave a space and put in a second name. Then I will go ahead and add a third word. Select Fabric Tools followed by the spray can. Select a fabric and recolor the background in one of the words. Then select a different fabric and recolor the background in a second word, and repeat that process for the third word. Now I decided to leave 2 inches between my rows, so now with the block tools Set Block, I can start my second row. The next item on my list is ice skating, which is my favorite sport, and that is 2 words. To add a space, I will select the 3 dots and select Add a Plain Block, and then drag the plain block on the quilt work table. Then I will finish up with that phrase. Select the fabric tools and the spray can to color row 2. Now I will select colors, and I'm going to select a white, and I will select swap color to change out the dark blue to a white. To get a better visual of your finished project, select Hide Show Quilt Patch Lines. I will continue with this process until I have added all my thankful words. Once I have everything placed, and I did leave a hole near the center where I could put in a date, now I can determine the size that I want for my center layout. Select the tape measure and measure both vertically, notice that it is 38 inches, and horizontally it is 38 inches as well. So I will change the layout to match that. Go to the Layout tab, and I want to make sure that Maintain the Existing Block Sizes when resizing the layout is turned on, and I will change the width and height to 38. Now when I go to the Design tab, everything fits. Then select Layer 1 and select Set Block, and we're going to find that plain block and drag that on the quilt. And then we're going to select that with the Adjust tool, and we're going to change the block width and height to 38 by 38. And then we can center it horizontally and vertically. And we can go to the Color tab and we can change the coloring. Now let's work on borders. We'll go to the Border tab, and I'm going to create a first border, and that is going to be a 2-inch border, and it's going to be a long horizontal. That makes our quilt 42 by 42. Next, I'm going to add another border, and I'm going to select the style Tile Squares. And I'm going to scroll down and change the number of horizontal blocks to 21. And notice that that's going to give us 2-inch square blocks. Then I will add a final border and make that a 2-inch long horizontal. And then I'm going to add a binding. I always like to select the type mitered for that. And I'm going to change the size to 0.375. Then select the Design tab and select Fabric Tools and recolor the borders. Now let's add the year in that center space. So I will go to Layer 2, under Block Tools, select Set Block, go to the Motifs tab, and drag the 2, 0, 1, and 9 on the quilt. Select each of the numbers with the Adjust tool and position on the quilt. And then select the Fabric Tools and go ahead and color this. Select Add to Project Sketchbook. If I wanted to piece this quilt, I would replace the block on Layer 1 with spacer blocks. Let me just show you how I would get started with that. So on Layer 1, I would go back to the Block Tools, use the Adjust, select that center block, and select Delete. And then on Layer 2, I would select Set Block, go back to the Block tab, select the plain block, and find the appropriate coloration. And I'm going to drag that on the quilt, and then I can take it with the Adjust tool. You can drag the edges of the block to resize it in 1-inch increments, and then move it to snap it into position. You can also do the same to fill in those smaller squares between each of the words. Thanks so much for watching. To see more of Kristy's quilts and be inspired by her story, please check out the related blog post at www.onpointquilter.com.